they're calling it the best cop film since Eddie Murphy went to Beverly Hills. Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal are a dynamite screen team in the best buddy movie in years. Bingo, a rat-tat-tat comedy. Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal in one of the hottest comedies of 1986, Running Scared, rated R.
Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is a review of the 1986 comedy action buddy cop film, Running Scared. Now, this is a film directed by Peter Hyams, and it features a screenplay by Gary DeVore and Jimmy Huston. It stars Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal, who play two Chicago cops, who are also the film's two leads. You have supporting roles by such names as Jimmy Smits, who plays the film's bad guy, Julio Gonzalez. You also have Joe Pantoliano, who plays a particular role in the film. You have Darlanne Fluegel, as well as Dane Hedaya, and Jonathan Gries, and Stephen Bauer. And Tracy Reed is another actress who plays one of the other love interests in the film. The movie was a surprise hit for the studio. It was a sleeper hit for MGM when it was released. It made around $38 million. And there was even plans of doing a sequel called Still Running. But it never really got past the pre-production phase because all the people involved weren't really that happy with the script. It got mixed reviews by critics upon its release. Vincent Canby from the New York Times even said that you'd be better off staying at home watching an episode of Miami Vice or Cagney and Lacey. But I don't think it's that bad of a film. And I honestly would say it's a little bit overlooked when it comes to this kind of movie from this kind of genre. But I can see why some people weren't really that impressed by it. It's one of those films that it has some really excellent parts to it. There's an absolutely fantastic car chase at one point in the film. And the two leads have some really great chemistry and comedic timing. But a lot of the other stuff is just passable. It's just average. When it comes to the overall story, when it comes to the quality of the jokes and the humor, like, this is not really a laugh out loud hilarious film, and it's a little disappointing that in that regard, considering the talent that's involved. Like, there's not really that many memorable quotes. There's not really that many memorable bits of comedy. There's a few scenes here and there. There's one where Gregory Hines emphatically gives the middle finger, which is a pretty fun scene. And there's a few others here and there, but for the most part, it's not really that noteworthy when it comes to its humor. And when it comes to the action sequences, there's not a lot of them. And when they are there, other than the car chase that I'm talking about, and maybe a little shootout or two, it's not really particularly that exciting or different than a lot of the other action comedies of the time. So it is one of those films that kind of does wind up being a little run-of-the-mill, but it's still well worth watching because of the cast involved and other factors too. I mean, Peter Hyams, he does a really great job directing this film. To me, he is a very underrated director. He is the epitome of consistent in terms of his effort and his ability to direct films and to work with casts and to also add his own personal touch to the film in ways that don't necessarily involve directing. He's one of the main reasons why the two leads in this film aren't older established actors, because he felt that he wanted two younger guys. He felt that that would be a good dynamic for the film to have and to help it stand out from some of the other films like it, and also to tie in more to what was becoming popular at the time, which was these younger actors in these kind of roles. And Peter, throughout his career, was well known for doing that kind of thing, you know, taking that kind of approach and going the extra mile when it comes to his ability to helm a project. So I've always felt that Peter Hyams is one of the better directors out there. And I would say he's actually one of the most underrated directors because he never really got as much credit as I feel that he deserves. I mean, this is a director, much like someone like Tony Scott, who's just considered to be above average. Nothing really that special. Oh, he has a good track record, and he's directed a lot of good movies, and he's done a good job directing them, but he's no Scorsese, or he's no insert whatever big name director uh, to fill in the blank. You know, and it's just unfair because his track record is remarkably consistent, and he deserves a lot more credit for his work. And I've always felt that he was a great director when it comes to capturing a lot of different emotions and a lot of different levels of energy. He's definitely one of the best directors when it comes to capturing energy on film. This is a very energetic film at times with the two leads and their chemistry, and also in the action sequences. That's why it's a little disappointing when it comes to the action, because Peter Hyams is such a capable director, and like I said, it has one of the best car chases that I've ever seen. The car chase that's featured in this film on the L train, on the train tracks, with the cab, is really a highlight. And it's one of my favorite car chases on film. So that does showcase Hyams' talent, and it also showcases the film's need for more action scenes that are like that. Because at times it does feel like it's going through the motions a little too much. I don't really like the whole stuff with the replacement cops, played by Jonathan Gries and Stephen Bauer. I don't like the romance aspects of the screenplay. I think the romance aspects of this film are some of the weakest parts of the movie. Either they really just feel out of place, like the whole thing with Gregory Hines' character and how he's actively dating this woman who's dating another man. I mean, it even gets to the point where he takes this girl away from the guy while the guy is there. He goes up to the door of the woman's apartment, or finds out where the guy is staying, where he lives or something, and then just takes his woman away from him. You're like, what the hell? Like, what the fuck, Gregory Hines? Um, that's something that definitely would not fly today, and I think even now, even back then, it was a little much. This is supposed to be a good guy. He's one of your two leads, and he's stealing another man's woman. You're like, dude, just like, come on, like, wait till they break up or some shit. Don't be going around and stealing her right in front of him. That's just messed up. And then you have this whole other thing with Danny, played by Billy Crystal, and it deals with him and his ex-wife, played by Darlanne Fluegel, and it's rather predictable. She gets kidnapped in the end, and Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines have to save her. And I didn't really feel that those two. It just felt like their scenes were padding for the film's running time, or just an ends to a mean, or a means to an end. Sorry. But it just didn't really feel like anything that was particularly necessary. You didn't even really need the ex-wife thing. You didn't need any love interests, to be honest. Like, you could have, I mean, maybe, but I mean, at the end of the day, you didn't really necessarily need it. You could still have the showdown between Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal. Uh, uh, well, I mean, with Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal and Jimmy Smits, and not have it deal with a damsel in distress situation. But you know, it is what it is. And the whole thing with the bad guy. Nothing against Jimmy Smits, but he's a very forgettable villain. I never really felt that intimidated by him either, so I don't think that was really handled that well. So yeah, when it comes to the script and the story, it is a little mediocre, but it does have its moments, and really what propels this film along is the energy, the charisma, and the chemistry between Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal. And the little bits that you do get of some really impressive action sequences. I like there's a shootout that I thought was pretty well handled in the climax in a really cool setting in this building in Chicago. This the James R. Thompson Center. I thought it was a really great setting for the climax, and I felt Peter Hyams did a really great job shooting that particular building. And I also want to give Peter Hyams, who was also the cinematographer. Peter did double duty here. He was the director and the DP of this film. So, despite some of the mediocre stuff, it isn't really that boring. Although, like I said, it does have some pacing issues when it comes to the romance subplots. But it's still a really entertaining film for the most part because of the two leads and the situations that they get into, the back and forth between one another. Well, it's been done better in other films. It's still pretty good here. Every scene that they share with Joe Pantoliano's character Snake is really funny, and it's really a shame when that character essentially gets taken out of the film because that dynamic is definitely missing throughout the rest of the movie. I like the music when it is there by Rod Temperton. I will say this though, I think the songs from the soundtrack are really what drives the film when it comes to the music. The score is just there, kind of in the background, but songs like "Sweet Freedom" by Michael McDonald, which in a lot of ways is the main theme for the film, they really do carry the film and help elevate it to above average status just on their own. I think Sweet Freedom is one of Michael's best songs, and honestly, a really underrated gem of 80s awesomeness in its own right. It's well edited by James Mitchell, and yeah, a runtime of about 107 minutes, and it goes by at a decent enough pace. Could be tightened up a little bit, but for the most part, it doesn't seem like it's too slow or becomes a little too tedious. And it's just one of those films that it does showcase a grittier side of Chicago and of the city and of beat cops, which is really refreshing to see. I really like the emphasis on how cold it is in Chicago and how nasty it is being a cop on the street and how dangerous of a job it is. And it was also really refreshing to see these kind of actors in this kind of role in this kind of film because these normally aren't the kind of people that you would see play cops, and that's a lot closer to what real cops are, is regular joes, regular guys who aren't like big muscle bound bodybuilders. And well, yeah, the comedy is not always on point. There will be a handful of moments that'll make you chuckle or smile. And the climax, while it is well shot and there's some nice bits with the Uzi in terms of gunplay, it's a little bit of a letdown in terms of how they handle Julio's final demise. But it's still effectively bloody and grisly, and still provides enough of an impact that it's ultimately satisfying. It just could have been a little bit better. And I know that originally Peter Hyams did not necessarily want a younger cast. Originally, he was thinking about doing an older cast, and when he was working on this film, what he had in mind was Gene Hackman and Paul Newman. And I actually I don't think he was the one that had it in mind. It was the producers and the original writers, and that would have been interesting to see those two, because I don't know how many films that those two have been in, and I'm a huge Gene Hackman fan, and I think he probably could have pulled it off. But I'm still really glad they went into a different direction, though, with a younger cast, with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. And Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines were also not really the first ones that they were going to initially offer the roles to. They offered the roles to Tom Selleck and John Travolta. But Tom Selleck had a prior commitment to Magnum PI, so he couldn't do it. And John Travolta, I guess his agent recommended that he didn't do the movie. But his agent probably told him it was okay to do Perfect. So I don't know. Maybe he should have fired his agent. But yeah, another bit of trivia I want to mention is the building where Danny and Hughes, which are the two main characters, Ray and Danny, they Danny ends up. I think they both throw their pants down to Julio to try to stop a hostage situation. That's another bit of genuinely funny business in terms of the script. I actually really liked that bit because it was very unique, and it isn't very often where you get a cop film where in order to get out of a hostage situation, they got to give the bad guy their pants. Um, that was the same building that was featured in Child's Play. I thought it was a pretty fun bit of trivia that the same building where Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines take off their pants to stop a hostage from getting hurt by Julio is the same building where you would later have Chucky tell someone to go fuck themselves in an elevator. Um, but yeah, I would say if you like these kind of films with buddy cops and bits of action, or if you like the trailer, I would recommend giving Running Scared a watch sometime. It's definitely an example of its time. I could see why some people would be like, well, this is a little dated. But I still think it holds up fairly well, though. And the main selling point is the two leads. It's Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines in their primes, just firing off a lot of really fun banter and back and forth. And while they're not necessarily the most memorable bits of banter, they're still a lot of fun to watch because the two leads get along so well. And they're having a blast making this film. And you can't help but really love watching these two work and play off of one another. And it has one hell of a good car chase. I mean, that car chase alone is worth a watch. Trust me, the one with the taxi cab on the train tracks. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Running Scared. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. See ya.